Good morning and welcome to The Extra. Thank you so much for being with us on UBC TV. I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono. That is in case you've just joined, but we are always here from 6:30 now. That is when we begin our live transmission, coming to you live from your sitting room, wherever you are, your hotel room. Well, we've just been talking about ICT. Wherever you're watching us, on your phone, in your office, 6:30, we are here. And what do? We make sure I kickstart your day with relevant information that you need to know as you go about business, both locally and internationally. But also, most important, is to put that smile on your face. The night could have been dark. A lot of uncertainties, even nightmares. Now, when you wake up with us, you can be rest assured that we shall wash away all that was stressing you throughout the night, all those bad dreams, and put a smile on your face. And there is power in smiling. There is healing in laughter. So that is what we do every weekday. Now, in The Extra, which is an extension of Good Morning Uganda, I usually have a guest, and we discuss issues of national concern. Now, we are going to be looking at the literacy levels in our country. Remember, we are going to be commemorating International Literacy Day. And joining me on set, I have Imelda Charingangabira Engabi. I hope I have the right pronunciation of this, of this name. And she happens to be the Principal Literacy Officer, National Coordinator, Integrated Community Learning for Wealth Creation at the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. You're most welcome, Engabi. Allow me to choose that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chirabo.
How is the ministry?
The ministry is fine. We are doing well. How is UBC?
UBC, we're fine. We are enjoying what we are doing.
That is good.
The Lord has been graceful to us.
Amen.
Of course, you've been celebrating one day from one day. Agenda. It is, there are always so much days to celebrate. Youth, elderly, literacy day. So much.
It's a ministry of people.
A ministry of people.
All kinds of people.
All kinds of people.
Yes.
Well, now, today we are going to be specifically looking at the current literacy situation in Uganda. And first, to begin with, when we talk about literacy, what are we referring to for this particular discussion?
Thank you so much. Good morning, our viewers. When we talk about literacy, we mean being able to read, write, and count or numerate with understanding.
Read, write,
yes.
Count, or numerate with understanding.
In any language.
In any language?
Yes.
So if a person can count in Luganda,
yes,
can read in Luganda,
yes,
then they are literate.
They are literate.
Okay. Okay, now I know where some people take a style go kusoma n'okuwandiika kiba kiwedde n'okubala. That is in Luganda. Now, when we talk about Uganda's case, how are we standing? Briefly take us through our current situation as a country.
Thank you so much. Uganda as a country has made strides in terms of education and literacy. And I would want to briefly share some statistics. Uganda, the literacy rate for our country as we are today, the year 2024, stands at 76%. That percentage is for all the males and the females. But when we go to the gender statistics, women are standing at 76, while the men are standing at 77, almost having a gender parity.
I thought the gap was going to be bigger when it came to women, because education, we are making strides, but women were a bit left.
Yes, that's when we are talking about the statistics in terms of age groups, starting from 10 and above. But when we go up and increase a little to 12 years and above, the literacy status changes. The men go up. They are 78%. And then the ladies, the females, they stand at 70%. a little lower because of the age difference.
Yes.
Meaning that as we advance up, more women become less literate, while men become more literate in terms of age.
Now, what are the factors contributing to these percentages?
There are a number of factors. And some of the factors are social, other factors are economic, others are physical, and cultural barriers. When you go back to the economic factors, poverty has a very big implication for literacy. If a household is poor, the chances of their children attending and completing school are limited. In most cases, you find that actually the children are also participating in the livelihoods of their families. So they end up being overshadowed in trying to provide for themselves, for their well-being. And then the parents, of course, are also not able to provide adequate scholastic materials. And in that case, the child loses the motivation. They lose the inspiration to learn because they are struggling. And then when we go to the socio-cultural issues, we come back to the females and the males. Of course, historically, there was that preference of wanting to educate boys as opposed to educating all the children. So you find that historically, women lagged a little bit behind because they were not given equal opportunity.
Yes.
So that becomes another serious factor. And then physically, the physical or the other barriers, geographical barriers, some of the areas in our country are hard to reach. By policy, every sub-county is supposed to be having a secondary school. It is supposed to be, parish is supposed to be having a primary school. But in reality, there are some places that do not have those services. And as a result, you find that children drop out because of the long distances to go to access education and other factors.
Now, that said, let's look at some of the education policies and programs that are in place to address the above challenges. Because, rightly said, our level standing at the 70, slightly about 70, is an achievement, we must say, because when you look at 3 decades back, we were really doing very, very bad. But still, this is not the best we can talk about. Mostly when you look at the different age groups. So what are those programs that our government deliberately is putting in place to ensure that the literacy levels in this country shoot up and we have more people who can read, who can write, who can count in any language?
Yeah, as government of Uganda, there are a number of policies that are in place that, of course, are trying to provide a framework for people to attain education. We have our law of the land, which is the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda of 1995 as amended. Under Article 30 of that Constitution, all Ugandans have a right, they have a right to basic education, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of location, or even socioeconomic status. So it gives us an opportunity as Ugandans, all of us, to undertake education. And away from that, we have other policies. Of course, you have heard that I come from Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development.
Yes.
We have the Ministry of Education and Sports that is mandated to oversee the education of children through all the different levels of our education system. So we have the Education and Training Policy of 2008. We have the Early Childhood Development Policy. We have the Integrated Early Childhood Development Policy. We have Mother Tongue Policy, the one that empowers our children to learn in their local languages, up to P3. Coming to Ministry of Gender, we have the National Adult Literacy Policy of 2014. we have the community development policy, we have different policies, a policy on disability, a policy on elderly, and all those other different policies. And all those policies have been put in place to ensure that Ugandans of all ages, of all sexes, attain education at all levels.
Okay. Now, you've talked of these policies. Let's look at their implementation and effectiveness. For example, that every Ugandan is entitled to education. Actually, education is a human right. Now, when we look at one of the major strides that we have made in the education sector is universal primary and secondary education in this country. But you still find that much as it's a right, many still, even if it's embedded in our constitution, many still are dropping out. Many still are not attending this. When we talk about issues of disability, their right to education, you find that many of the children born with disabilities in this lovely part of Africa are able to get education. When we talk about elements of the girl child having an extra point, even with all these, so let's briefly try to assess them. What have been the hindrances? When I move in villages, sometimes you go up country and you look at these young boys, they're supposed to be in school. Even here in Kampala, moving around with the eggs. We have a full Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, where you come from. We have a police force. We have a Ministry of Education, and we're complacent.
Mr. Chiraba, I want us to give credit where it is due. I will begin from the positive. That as government, because of those very different frameworks that we have, which I have just talked about, we have different programs, like you rightly said. We have universal primary education.
Yes.
We need to first appreciate that when this program was introduced in 1997, the levels of children attending school were very low. Statistically, when it was introduced in 1997, enrollment rose from 3.1 million to 7.5 million.
Good, an achievement.
That is almost double. In 7 years, that enrollment had increased more than even double. It continued to increase. The latest data that I can provide is that by end of 2017, over 10 million had enrolled in primary school. If you look at the statistics of 3 million vis-a-vis 10 million, we need to appreciate that these programs have helped the very children that wouldn't have managed at all to enroll to now come into the mainstream education.
Okay.
And of course, that is not ignoring the facts that there are challenges, which I will look at later.
Because school is not about just going and sitting. It also involves learning and making sense of what you're learning.
Yes. We also have what we call the post-primary education and training programs.
Very effective.
And that is where we have universal secondary education, we have vocational education, agriculture and farm schools, among others. All these are put in place to ensure that we expand access to education. And of course, many of them target the rural and peri-urban, because those farm schools are actually within the countryside and within the rural areas, so that these people who have not transitioned from primary school to go to secondary, they have an alternative pathway for them to also
more of a vocational education. But the rural farm schools, I stand to visit one.
Yes, if you find, you need to get time, and then you get information, and then you'll be able to visit.
I don't know why you have been silent.
But there are also these other institutions you've heard of, Bukarasa. Those institutions are taking in students from P7. They give certificates. They give...
Bukarasa is doing tremendous work, I must say.
And there are others, many others, that are doing the same tremendous work. You only need to acquaint yourself with them and know where they are and what they are doing. And I want also now to talk about the interventions and adult learning, aware that our education system also has some of those challenges that you mentioned. those children you see selling items on the streets, maybe those you find in the communities, also not in school yet they are supposed to have been in school. Our government has put in place second chance education programs, and that is where I come from, the Ministry of Gender. As a ministry, we come in to intervene, to address the areas, especially for the youth and the young adults who have now, who didn't get the opportunity of being in school, or those who dropped out before they completed. And our target programmatically is 15 years and above. I know you will ask that, is 15 an adult? Is 15 a youth? In our context, in the Ugandan context, 15 years, many of them have already engaged in activities of adults. If they are girls, some of them already are young mothers.
Yes, child
if
mothers.
They are men, they are already having families. Although that they are not supposed to be.
Yes, true.
So we come in to intervene so that at least all their hope is not lost. We provide second chance opportunity for them to acquire the literacy and numeracy skills. And as you will understand, we have had these programs since 1992. As government of Uganda, we had the functional adult literacy program from 1992 to 2015, over a period of 20 years. And it had results.
Now, what entails in this? Good, it is now for gender, not education, and here you are. What entails in this second chance? Do you go to communities? Do you have schools? Do you meet them in the evening? You know?
So, for us, from the point of view of already people who are already in responsibility, we run flexible programs. These communities are mobilized by the community development officers, of course through the LC1 chairpersons, and they are able to agree. They are able to agree on the time which is flexible for them to be able to learn. And they do not come to learn for the sake of getting knowledge of theory. Already for them, they are in the world. So they come to learn, to acquire practical knowledge and skills that they can apply in their day-to-day lives in order to improve their lifestyles. You have heard the program that I coordinate, the Integrated Community Learning for Wealth Creation. It is a program that is geared towards addressing literacy and development at the same time. So through the processes that we engage the community, we collect data on their situation to assess their basic needs. And once their needs have been identified, they are the ones that are developed into a curriculum. We call them context-based curriculum.
Okay.
And they learn what is immediate, what they can apply immediately. For example, if my community is having issues of low household income, we bring it as our issue, and it is our priority number one, and learning materials are developed around that area.
So in case they don't know how to read or write?
What they are reading and writing is coming from the issue at hand. So at the end of that day, the community has a village action plan, a group action plan, and they agree on what are we going to do to get out of this poverty. And meanwhile, they are learning how to read and write whatever they are trying to do, to put into practice. They are learning how to read about the subject that they have identified. They are able to write the same, and they are able to also do what we call functional numeracy. They do a lot of counting based on what they are learning. So that is what makes the difference between...
So these issues of count for me, my money, they are minimized.
The issues of count for me, my
read
money,
for me, my later.
The issues of read for me, my later, the issues of count for me, my kilograms of coffee, the issues of read for me, the reports. You are a child, you have come back, maybe you are the last and you are the one to read the report.
So we count
Definitely
from the,
you will rely your parent that, yeah, I am number 2. Yet you are number 50.
No, the
so they are
report
able
is read.
to interpret.
Who is with the biggest figure is the best.
Yes, they are able to interpret the report cards.
Yes.
They are able to interpret the health messages. They are able to do savings on their own. They are able to record and they are able to invest and calculate how much they are earning. So it brings them into actually the development arena, and they are able to exercise their human rights.
Well, we are still looking at the current literacy situation in Uganda, and according to my guest today, the statistics are not that threatening, I must say, over a period of time, and mentioning some of the programs that government has deliberately put in place to ensure that we improve these statistics even better. Now, what have been the outstanding challenges?
Thank you so much. Every rose flower has a thorn, and that is what qualifies it to be a rose flower. So some of these programs, if not all of them, they are bound to meet challenges. Of course, you already mentioned, when we talk about universal primary education, the dropout rate is high.
And the quality?
Number two, the achievements. For us, we want to focus on the achievements. So we say the learning achievements are inadequate, or they are limited.
Now you're going technical.
Because when you say quality, you are almost saying everything is not okay. But when you talk about the learning achievements, you are able to categorize. Because remember, we are talking about competences in reading, competences in writing, competences in counting, and then the application of the knowledge. So we cannot overall say the quality is lacking or is poor.
So what do we say? We say
the learning achievements are
wanting.
No, not wanting. They are inadequate.
They are inadequate.
Yes.
I love the shortening of the English language.
Because that is the reality. Because you might find that somebody has not done well in writing, but in reading they are doing something. You might find when the reading is also wanting, but the counting and the numerating is, the competences have been gained.
Average. Average of these things you're talking about.
And then the understanding and putting it into context. So on average, I would say Uganda is on the trend to achieve that universal education. Because looking at the other statistics, for that person who was unable to completely access, but now they are accessing. And then we are saying that we also have these second chance opportunities. In case somebody drops out before they acquire the literacy, the numeracy skills, they can now take this other route and they are able to access or acquire the same competencies. So that together we complement each other and we make the education and literacy of our country better. But of course also under the adult learning programs, we also have challenges. And one of the basic challenges is the limited participation of men. On a bigger scale, you find that it is the women who are participating in these programs. The men are only concerned about livelihood. They only come in when they look at the livelihood aspects. That is a challenge, because if we are to achieve development, we want men and women to be moving together. Because some of the men also lack the literacy and numeracy skills. And definitely it is hampering their activities or their engagement in the areas where they are.
Many of them are still, I think, viewing at making money more than anything. Even in elite families, education, a man usually thinks, if I provide, the rest, madam, if madam can read and write, then it is okay with me. Let me make my money, and the rest we shall see how we move on as a family.
Yes, and another challenge that we have, of course, in programming is inadequate resources. Because when you look at, for example, 24% of the population not being able to read and write, if we are talking about 45 or 46 million Ugandans, here we are talking about close to 10 million.
They can't read, they can't write.
Which means that those millions that cannot read and write really have a negative impact on the development of our country, because all the other benefits I talked about, they are not benefiting.
You know, when you tell someone in Kampala that 24% of our population cannot read and write, that's approximately how many millions?
Approximately 10 million.
Approximately 10 million Ugandans cannot read or write. Someone may not really understand it, but these are true statistics. And we say we have moved from far to get to where we are, but the journey still continues. Now, you've given us some of the challenges. And when we look at them, how do you plan then to address them? For example, male involvement. That is something that, does it include mindset change? Then when we go to universal primary education, you talked about, I want to get the exact words you used, the challenges, not the quality, but those gaps, you say, the limited achievements. How are we planning to address them? Because these are more in what you want to achieve.
Yes, in trying to address some of those challenges, as government, we look at putting into place the policies that will help us to achieve milestones, greater milestones. You talked about persons with disabilities, the children not being able to access, and you are aware there is inclusive education, and they have worked out a policy to ensure that children with disabilities are also accessing education equally. And where there are other challenges, especially it has been the issue of playing, the different stakeholders playing their exact roles. So as government, our focus is on ensuring that we address the mindset issues, like you rightly said. And in my ministry, that is where the mandate of mindset change is. And under the parish development model, we actually involve and engage with parents and the communities to support and also to ensure that their children are accessing services, because social services is another pillar for the parish development model. And it is promoting access to health and then education. So as government, we are trying to mobilize the different stakeholders, putting in place policies, but also mobilizing stakeholders and building their capacity to ensure that they do what they are supposed to do. Building the capacity of the teachers, increasing on the structures in schools, trying to put schools where they are not basing on the standards that we expect as a country. Those are some of the strategies. On the side of adult learning, we are trying to work out a new program. That program that I coordinate currently of integrated community learning for wealth creation has been on pilot basis. And it has successfully worked in 6 districts. We have had in PG, Ganga, Namayingo, Noya in the north, Rukunjiri in the west, and then Mitiana. What were we doing? We are trying to test it to see if we integrate across the sectors, we have a system of reaching out to the community together as a system, and of course as established under the strategy of parish development model. How much are we able to achieve in terms of bringing our people closer to services and to ensure that they benefit? So government is in the processes of ensuring that this program gets mainstream funding from finance, and we think once we get the resources, we are going to roll it out countrywide. And at this point, I want to thank our partner. We have a partner, a long-standing partner that we've been working with, called the German Adult Education Association. They call themselves in brief DVV International. They've been a technical and financial partner behind the development and the piloting of the integrated community wealth for creation.
Well, so much we can discuss regarding our literacy levels, but allow me go for a short break now. When we return, we'll specifically focus on 8th September, which is International Literacy Day. Where is this going to be celebrated in Uganda? What are some of the activities? That is after this break. Keep it with us on UBC TV.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Once upon a time, there lived identical twins who gave birth to beautiful princes and princesses.
Their mothers gave their babies' bodies a lot of care by applying on their skin with baby junior jelly.
So dried their chariots and everyone would admire their glowing skin. Fun fact, Baby Junior prevents diaper rash, dry and sensitive skin.
Moms all over Africa love Baby Junior jelly. Baby Junior's the skin. No more worries anymore. Boo, 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 boo. Baby Junior.
Baby Junior.
Uganda, are you ready to kick things up to the next level? The Uganda National Lottery brings you Sports Take 10. Predict the results of 10 football games and win big. With tickets at only 500 shillings, join the fun and make your predictions count with Sports Take 10. Sports Take 10, your ticket to football glory.
Uganda National Lottery. Dream, play, win.
Participants must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The Uganda National Lottery is operated by Ituba Uganda and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board.
Omwaliso gagadde ogutumidwa East Africa UK Tourism and Cultural Expo 2024 guguno nga wakubira wena kuzo mwezi munana nena kuzo mwezi mwenda omwezi gwa November 2024 wansi w'omulamwa okuwagira ebyobulambuzi ng'engeri y'okutumbula obumu n'enkulaakulana awo ku WTM London ku Rembrandt Hotel 11th PI South Kensington London SW7 2RS United Kingdom. Tickets abasubuzi mukyasasula pound 10 ate abaneetaba mu mwoleso bakyasasula pound 3 okumanya ebisinga okuba ku ssimu kasaraba 256 787 096 00 oba kasaraba 254 795 806 969 kyali ya www.eaukTourismExpo.com okwewandiisa.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that break. Thank you so much for keeping it on UBC TV. We are still looking at the illiteracy levels in our country, literacy levels in Uganda, and with me I have an official from Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development with whom we are discussing this. Now, 8th September globally is World Literacy Day, and Uganda, we are among the countries that celebrate this. First and foremost, what's its relevancy? Why should we continue celebrating it?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chirabo. The relevance of celebrating the International Literacy Day, as you've rightly put it, worldly celebrated, is number one.
So we celebrate because to celebrate world.
That is number one, but also to understand or to put into perspective the role of literacy in development. And on this day, it is very critical because it is that day that we give accountability.
Okay.
The policymakers, the practitioners, the researchers, and everybody. That is the day that we go into the limelight and we tell the public of what we have done, the achievements. So we track the progress of what we've done. We also highlight the challenges, like we are doing here, of the challenges that are affecting literacy in the country. But we also bring about issues on how to address those challenges. So we discuss the recommendations and also come up with those strategies that will really transform the situation of the literacy situation in the country. And lastly but not least, it is a day when we collaborate and network the different stakeholders, the different actors in the field of literacy. That's when we come together, so it gives us a platform for us to be at one table and deliberate on issues of national importance.
Okay, collaboration is a very important thing, and of course accountability of how far we've come and what we are doing as for now. Usually you have a week lined up activities to the D-Day. This time around, what activities do you have?
Thank you so much. Actually, we have a whole literacy week. The literacy week begins on the 1st of September and it ends into the eve of the Literacy Day, which is on 7th of September. A number of activities have been lined up, and these are activities of all stakeholders. They are not activities of one person or one organization or institution. So we have activities that are celebrated by our partners, the civil society organizations, the primary schools, the other education institutions, and then finally we have the national celebrations. For this year, we had yesterday on the 2nd, we had the graduation, the literacy competitions, the reading, writing, and numeracy competitions amongst adult learners by one of our civil society organizations that we collaborate with called Unbound Kampala. They work in Chotera and Rakai.
Okay.
As we go through the week, our other partner called Literacy and Basic Education, LABE, they are having a week-long activities in the northern Uganda and West Nile. They have organized visits to the learning sites. They call them home learning centers. And then they are also having radio talk shows in those other districts. One will be today in Gulu, and on Thursday it will be in Arua. And they are also holding dialogue meetings where also they collect stakeholders and they share on their projects that they've been having in the communities. We have other partners. Read to Learn is leading, working together with UNESCO, Kampala project. They are leading a boot camp, a literacy boot camp for young learners. And this one is starting on the 5th. It will be for 2 days on the 5th and the 6th, and it is hosted by UNESCO office in Prince Charles Drive, Kororo.
Yes.
And different stakeholders are going to bring their learners to this venue, and others will be online to discuss, as young learners, the theme of the day, which is multilingual education and literacy for social cohesion and socio-economic transformation. So a number of activities are happening, and I think another partner called Caritas Uganda is going to have a graduation within the settlement camp of BDBD. It is also in West Nile. So there are a number of activities that we are doing, and another most important activity will be by our Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development addressing the nation. She will go for the press statement at Media Center on the 5th of September 2024.
Then the climax of it all.
Yes, and the climax of all of it will be, it is supposed to be on 8th, but 8th is falling on a Sunday. We have actually worked with the Interreligious Council to ensure that on that day, literacy is given priority, and as they talk to the faithfuls, as they preach, they actually talk about the importance of literacy. Of course, also including the Muslim fraternity on Friday, 6th, and then the Seventh-day Adventist on the 7th, which is Saturday. We have prepared a message that should cut across, because we know religious and faith movements are the key partners in education and literacy. So for the national celebrations, they are going to be on the 12th of September 2024, so that we bring on board all these people that have been engaged in the various activities, the stakeholders, to one venue to finally celebrate it together under a national symposium. And the symposium is going to be at the office of the president in the conference hall. And on that day, we also have various activities. We shall have a literacy march. Have you heard about a literacy march? It will be there. We shall be walking, marching from the Ministry of Gender to the office of the president. Of course, both young and adult learners are going to participate in that march. And then at the venue, we shall have exhibitions. What do we exhibit? We exhibit the learning achievements that the learners have been able to get or to acquire as a result of learning. But also reflecting, now for the adults, they also reflect the impact on their economic status. Remember the program we are promoting, integrated community learning for wealth creation.
Yes.
So we want to see how the learning is leading into creating wealth. So also products that our learners are producing will be exhibited. And then we shall have panel discussions. Panel discussions by different stakeholders, government, non-government, young learners, the adult learners, publishers, to discuss how multilingual education can create a very big impact on social cohesion and socio-economic transformation.
Well, all activities lined up, and the fact that this symposium will, in fact, yield so much. Now, I've always asked myself, after these conferences, after this coming together, do you make follow-ups? Because it's not the first literacy day we are going to be celebrating. Do we... Yes, collaboration. Yes, you've gone to these schools. We've had this media coverage. What next after this?
That is a very critical question. That we do all these activities to
wait for another year,
to bring literacy in the limelight. And at the end of the day, each of those events ends with a report which has a call to action. We shall have a call to action from the Young Learners event that is taking place on the 5th and 6th, and it will be read within now the national symposium, so that it is incorporated in the outcome of the symposium. At the end of the day, the symposium is going to come up with a detailed report, but also a summary of the call to action. What do different stakeholders need to do in order to improve the literacy situation of our country? And of course, with that outcome, it is used again to inform programming, to inform policy, and also to inform practice, so that at least we change the situation, we improve on what is not going well. And this is not one man or one institution. Still, it will be across the different stakeholders.
Well, Imelda, we must leave room for more programming. But before I let you go, let me just have your parting shot to our viewer who's been with us since the hour of 9.
First of all, I want to thank you, moderator. I also want to thank UBC for the great opportunity that you have awarded to us, you've given to us to share with Ugandans on what we are doing and where we want to go. I also want to thank our viewers for listening to us, for having created that time to listen to what we are telling them. But I want to call upon each and everybody, including you, the media, the viewer, him or herself, that all of us have a role to play as far as literacy and education is concerned. Government, non-government, civil society, media, individuals, religious and the cultural institutions, all of us have a role that we have to play. And once we collaborate, we shall improve the outcome of education and literacy in Uganda, and definitely it will result into the social economic transformation of our country that is much awaited.
Thank you so much, Madam Imelda Charingabira Engabi, who happens to be the Principal Literacy Officer, National Coordinator of Integrated Community Learning for Wealth Creation at the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Thank you so much for your time, and of course letting us know of those achievements. Yes, there is still so much to do, but of course we must also accept that something has been done. 70 plus literacy levels is an achievement, because you weren't like that 4 decades back, but still there is more hope. And of course let's join the celebrations that will be on the 12th. Though internationally it is 8th, but she has given those reasons, and together let's ensure that we fight illiteracy. If you can afford a book, school fees for some child in the village there, please do that, so that they are able to read, write, and of course they're able to count and interpret these things very well. See you tomorrow, the good Lord willing, for God and my country. Remember to ensure that you're alert. We are not in that very good of times, so in case of any suspicious person, any suspicious object, don't just take what doesn't belong to you. You may carry something that will totally mess you up and your relatives. See you tomorrow. Have a blessed day.